Sam Hartman, you mentioned his name. We didn't see him throw the ball to another player who wasn't a quarterback or a coach until the fifth period, which was our last period to film. And then they started airing it out. And Mike, I texted you earlier. I was like, hey, man, my duty on Saturday is to get a better job filming the ball as Hartman actually throws it, because they lined up the quarterbacks four wide across the line of scrimmage, if you would, when it was really not really a line of scrimmage, but where the target was taking off from. And they were throwing the ball all different directions. Hartman was throwing it this way, and Jelly was throwing it that way. Tyler Buckner was throwing it down the middle. And you're like, well, dang, I really have to key in on one of these guys. Otherwise, I don't know what the heck I'm looking at. But from what I did see, Sam Hartman in person, he throws a really nice deep ball. And as I wrote for blueandgold.com, it didn't matter who his target was. I saw him throw one to Caleb Smith. I saw him throw one to Jaden Thomas. He put the ball right on the money in stride. So what I saw in watching all those games in the offseason, rewatch after rewatch, I watched every single offensive snap from Sam Hartman last year. It was good to see that in person from the beginning, him throwing that deep ball today.
All right, so question that when you're talking about, and I think we do have some clips of that.
Don't show them; they're bad.
Yeah, you had one usable one, Tyler. Because I'm thinking about that. That's not something you've shot before, because that's not something that Notre Dame's done before. So, like, is that like a Gino Gaduli thing, where for folks watching YouTube, you see it? You got Minchie on the right, Drew Pine, Sam Hartman. We'll get to that in a moment. Tyler Buckner, and then Angeli's on the far left. Yeah, that's not something you've probably ever had to shoot before, because that's something that Notre Dame's ever done before, right?
Yeah, I mean, with Tommy Rees, it was 2 and 2. It was too wide, and you kind of knew, okay, the quarterback on the left is probably throwing it to the guy on the left, and you don't know what route he's running. He could be going long. He could be stopping 5 yards like Tobias Merriweather did right there. But you generally knew, okay, he's throwing to him. Today, we only got 5 minutes of this. By the end of it, I finally started getting used to it. But at the beginning, I was like, Gino has these guys throwing all over the place. And honestly, I was pretty impressed with the wide receivers. They knew what they were doing, because it was almost like an actual play where you had four guys going all over the place, but instead of one quarterback, you had four, and the wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, everybody knew, okay, I'm getting the ball from this guy. And from the most part, from what I can see, it was a pretty fluid operation where these guys knew what they were doing. So maybe changes to the Notre Dame offense just in terms of operations coming right away with this new staff.
All right, I did make my little Drew Pine comment. Maybe it's just because he's wearing the number 10. But he doesn't look that much bigger than Drew Pine. Am I crazy? Like, is he? Am I wrong here, Tyler?
You're not crazy. Kyle Kelly, our new coworker here at blueandgold.com, we were standing next to each other for a little bit of this, and he said, he kind of looks like Drew Pine. He's not that much bigger. And so he made kind of the same joke you did. But look, here's the thing. I mentioned the rewatches that I did. If you're a Notre Dame fan and you haven't seen those, you still have 5 months to go look at every single play of Sam Hartman before the 2023 season opener. I saw a guy every single time I started one of those games when I was watching, I was like, okay, this guy's not that big. But by like the third series, even the second, sometimes even the first time that Wake Forest was on the field offensively, I said, it doesn't matter that this guy is small, because one, he can take a hit. Two, he can improvise. We saw Drew Pine improvise a little bit last season. Sam Hartman can do that and then some. If you want a designed run for this guy, you can do that. And then three, he can make all of the throws. I saw him make short throws, intermediate throws, and obviously I just talked about the long ball. So, Mike, to your point, is he a big guy? Absolutely not. I'm 5'11" with a bump on my head, and he might just be a bump taller than I am. But I can't throw the football like this guy. And my high school hockey playing days didn't get me near as far in my athletic career as this guy either. So he looks the part of a college quarterback. And obviously for 5 years, he showed that at Wake Forest too.
I think for each incompletion he throws, I'll say interception. Every interception he throws at Notre Dame, I think this fan base starts knocking him an inch. So he'll probably be, Drew Pine's height at no time. Tim, I'll go to you. Got anything for Horka?
No, first off, Tyler's articles were outstanding because, I've watched all his films as well. And he is the one thing you can say about Sam Hartman is the dude's elite when it comes to throwing back shoulder fades. So, I mean, he is so darn good at throwing. I'm talking 25 yards on a dime to the pylon back shoulder. He did that time and time again at Wake Forest, and that was the most impressive thing to watch him do. He got mauled at Wake Forest. Offensive line was atrocious. That slow mesh sometimes where it was just backers would just run fit and just end up being cover zero type blitzes. And he got some balls off just getting smashed. You want to watch the true heart and of the physicality that he took. Watch the Pitt game when they played them in the ACC championship game 2 years ago. I think he got sacked like 9 times, hit 15, and he just kept playing. So it's yeah, but I was laughing earlier because you are right. He looked like Pine. He does. And I would love to hear Tyler on Minchie. I saw some pictures and videos. How he looks much taller than I ever anticipated. He looked really good out there just day one, just looking like a Notre Dame quarterback, which was very impressive.
Yeah, he was pretty stout, and I could tell it's nice when those guys are all in the same grouping because they're all right next to each other. And I was just like, okay, you kind of look at the legs first with these quarterbacks because that's what they're throwing off of. That's what keeps them upright. And I said, okay, he's got the lower body. And then you look at everything else and you're like, all right, he looks like a college quarterback. So Steve Angeli, obviously, you see right there, probably the biggest of the group, looks most like the NFL prototypical, hey, if you want a guy throwing from the pocket, that's him. Mike, I see your face right there.
Tyler,
that
we're getting you a raise, my friend. We're getting you a raise, but continue.
All right, fine. I'll stop right there then. But yeah, Minchie, he was one of those guys where when I'm looking out there, and we'll get to some of the other guys in a bit. Maybe I'll just do a spoiler right now. But Minchie and Rico Flores Jr. were two guys that when I saw them in person, because these are my first time seeing them on a football field in person, I said, whoa, these guys are true freshmen.